right now with Governor Kristi Noem, one of the first politicians to hop on the president's bandwagon when he came out of nowhere to win the election in 2016 and try to keep it in 2020. Governor, welcome.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thanks for having me on.
So compare Trump now from what you remember. I don't know if you were in the House back then to 2016 to what you see now for the president as he tries to get his job back. As yesterday we get Mitch McConnell, Senator Joni Ernst, Governor Youngkin all get behind him.
Well, I think back in 2016, a lot of people wrote him off. In fact, I remember during that campaign, I was the only statewide elected official in South Dakota that supported him. And we had a lot of Republicans in office, but I was the only one and the only woman that supported him and thought he was a man who would come to Washington, D.C. and clean things up. I was serving in Congress at the time. I would say now people realize and politicians realize that he means what he says and that he'll actually do it. And that's why more of them this time around are supporting him. Maybe they took him a little longer than it should have. I think the president should remember that, but also unite people. And he's been doing that in his speeches. He's been displaying incredible leadership. I hope that the rest of the elected officials in the Republican and the Democratic Party can start to do the same thing and recognize that we gotta fix this country. We are on the verge of losing it.
Well, I mean, between the border, the crime, they're realizing they got a huge problem. Do Democrats come for this election? Because the whole bail reform is not just a New York thing. It's a Philadelphia thing. It's a Chicago thing, Oregon, San Francisco, Los Angeles. The state of Oregon is now realizing their open drug dens are not a positive. In Washington, D.C., they're beginning to crack down on crime. And now you have an urging from the White House for local law enforcement to get along with ICE. Is there sincerity with this?
No, but I would just say that it's interesting to see people speak out that have never spoken out before. The general population that's been pretty quiet and intolerant up until this point. In fact, in a lot of these swing states, they elected their very liberal socialist Democrat governors that shut them down during COVID and took away their businesses and all of their constitutional rights, and they reelected them. So I would say that now these states, people are realizing those governors are still in place. Wait a minute, it's getting much worse. I have to speak out now. This is not a time to be quiet and say the status quo is good enough, that it actually can get worse than it was in 2021, and we're seeing it today. That's why we got to make sure that we're talking about Donald Trump and the fact that he really is the only one that gets out of bed every day and thinks about the people first. He doesn't think about himself first.
So the goal for Joe Biden, they say, is to go for the jugular every day. He said, point out some of the outlandish things the former president has said and try to get under his skin. Do you think, I know you talk to the former president a lot. Does he understand what's coming at him?
He does. He absolutely does. And I think that is the Democrats' playbook. They're going to use social issues and they're going to use words that he's said in the past or things that have happened in the past to try to make him angry. And what I've told the president is he needs to keep a few fighters around him. He needs to keep a few people around him that fight for him every day so he can just relax and be the candidate. He can just relax and be the president, talk about his policies, his successes, what he's going to do, and let other people fight his battles because he's got a lot of support out here and a lot of people that have opportunities to fight for him and can push back on all the lies that the Democrats are pushing.
I want you to hear what Nikki Haley said yesterday. Cut one.
I have always been a conservative Republican and always supported the Republican nominee. But on this question, as she did on so many others, Margaret Thatcher provided some good advice when she said, quote, never just follow the crowd. Always make up your own mind. It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him. And I hope he does that.
How did that message resonate? I know what he put on Truth Social after. How do you get the Haley voters, and how do you describe them?
Well, number one, first of all, Nikki Haley just proved that she is not a leader, that what she is doing by making that statement and by using that quote in a totally different context and out of place and inappropriately, because Margaret Thatcher was 10 times the woman that Nikki Haley was. But by her using it there, she proved to all of us that she should never be president of the United States. But what I would say is that, yes, Donald Trump is going to unite this country, and he's going to do it by helping families keep more money in their pockets and have more of their freedoms. I think the fact that she is actually giving Joe Biden and the Democrat socialists a foothold by making that statement is not just irresponsible, it's disrespectful. It's disrespectful, and I don't think that she has any place in leadership in the future in
she
our
said,
government.
well, her
Because
quote
she just
was,
can't be trusted.
never follow the crowd, always make up your own mind.
I agree with that, but what are our choices right now, Brian? I mean, she's making up her own mind by saying that.
Okay.
She's making up her own mind that it is Joe Biden or Donald Trump, and that she is not going to say what her own mind is. Therefore, she's not going to be transparent and be bold enough to tell people why she supports who she supports. She's sitting on the sidelines when we have the most important election that I've seen in my lifetime. I don't know about hers.
So, Governor, right now there's a huge push in this country I find unbelievably disturbing, and the rioters are going after the squad and everybody else. They're interrupting Adam Schiff's victory press conference. He's a left-wing Democrat. Kristi, you can't get more left-wing than AOC, and she's trying to go to the movies, and they're harassing her. They interrupt Joe Biden's speeches, and I'm talking about this pro-Hamas, this ceasefire crowd that doesn't seem to recognize that Israel, there's a reason why Israel's in Gaza. Have you made sense of this? Did you compare it to any other movement that you remember? They're actually targeting the liberals for not being liberal and left-wing enough.
Well, I don't remember a terrorist organization being this organized in the United States of America through a messaging and infiltration campaign into our communications. That's what's interesting to me, is that by allowing a few of these leaders to walk this rope of supporting Hamas has allowed them to infiltrate the consciousness of Americans and normalize the conversation. This is one of the examples I use all the time, Brian, of why TikTok is so dangerous, is because it's controlled by the Chinese, and it can change people's minds and perceptions of situations and mislead them down false truths. And what they have done is use TikTok as a tool to convince people that what happened on October 7th was maybe justified, and it absolutely was not. It was a terrorist attack where Hamas has just decided to exterminate the Jewish people. That is the truth, and history has proven it out. But by using social media, they have used that to make sure that this terrorist organization has a foothold here in America. And they're not just going after conservatives. They're not just going after Republicans. They're going after Democrats. They're going after every single person that will stand and be elected into an office in America, because they hate America. They hate America, and if they can destroy all of us, then that's when they're successful.
So, Governor, I know you were in Washington for a while, and then you've been running your state. What kind of dog is that, by the way?
It is my Vizsla dog. I don't know what got into him, but he's chatting this morning with you as well.
Yeah, I know. When I do my calls from home, I have two Great Pyrenees. They always seem to bark while I'm on the phone, but I totally understand it. Governor, how would you be reluctant to go back to Washington?
Well, I sure don't like that place. I go back once in a while to testify at committees. I think I'll be there next week testifying in front of a few committees and stuff. But I think every American right now needs to look at themselves and say, what can I do that will make a difference? So I want President Trump to win. I'll do whatever I need to do just to make sure that he wins and he gets back in the White House.
I've not seen a short list without your name on it. Have you spoken to the former president, about this?
Well, we had a long conversation, but Brian, I don't usually talk about my conversations with the president. I consider him a friend, and he's a good man, and he'll pick the right person that will help him win. And I told him that no matter what, his policies worked for my people here in South Dakota. I love my job in South Dakota, but I will do whatever he wants me to do to carry his message and his policies forward.
So whether it's vice president or something else, you'd be in.
Well, I mean, I told him I'd help him win. I think that I don't know what all he would ask me to do, but it is something that it's that important to me and to my family that we think that we really need to make sure we kick out Joe Biden real soon, or else my little granddaughter, my little grandson are not going to have a future. Understood.
If you were to talk about, in other words, you've talked to him about the president, about policy, everything. You're in regular conversation.
Well, when he ran in 2016, I was in Congress, and then I ran for governor in 2018. He came to South Dakota and helped me, but I got the chance in Congress for 2 years to work with him on tax reform. I only ran for office because of tax policy. I was passionate about it because we almost lost our family business to bad tax policy. So the fact that he came to Washington, D.C. to reform our tax code was just right where my heart was. And we spent 2 years working on a bill that we passed to put more money in people's pockets. And I had the chance to work on national security issues on the Armed Services Committee with him. So that's all what most of our conversations have been over the years, was about our families and policy. And he's extremely articulate, and there's never been a time that we've had a conversation where he hasn't sat there and taken my opinions and my thoughts into consideration and actually helped me to do what I could do to do my job as a congresswoman and as a governor. And as I tell people, the greatest gift that President Trump ever gave me was that he allowed me to do my job. Is that if there was a different president that was a Democrat in there, they would have tried to tell me how to do my job in my state. President Trump let me do my job in my state to do what was best for my people, and we're thriving. We are breaking all kinds of historic revenue records, savings records, paying off debt. Our kids are more successful. Overdoses are going down. I mean, what South Dakota is doing is incredible, and it's because he allowed us to do our job and take care of our own people here.
And you'll get the fireworks show back on the 4th of July if he wins.
We will when he comes back in the White House. Joe Biden took him away again, that little bugger. So there's absolutely no reason not to allow us to celebrate our independence at that great monument. But these Democrats, apparently, they either don't like Mount Rushmore or they don't like America. I can't figure out which.
Governor Kristi Noem, thanks so much. On the president's shortlist to be a running mate, which I'm sure he'll take his time in announcing because he likes to create the drama or drag out the drama if you've watched him in action. Governor, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian. Have a wonderful day.
You got it.